And this is Hilton the Land, tuning in, thanking you for tuning in to Divine Times. And I'm just a dude searching for the divine, and I think these are a couple of divine dudes. Let me introduce you. Hugh Reilly, the founder of that channel, the glorious host of this place. And thank you, Hugh. You gave me some of my introductions to this process. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to be on your on this with you.
Yeah, no, it feels so inaugural in its own wonderful ways. Yes,
and Richard Geer, Rick Geer, I guess that's what everyone calls you now. And we've met a couple of times, and even now, just pre the filming, we just fell into or rose into Divine Times, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So please tell me more about yourself, or tell us about yourself and some of the stuff that's divine to you.
I think that the first chapter of the Gospel according to St. Boogie is
that's your new play, right?
New, ancient, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, yeah, I love that
musical play. And it's I like the whole idea. There's in Buddhism, there's the whole idea of the bodhisattva, someone who gives up enlightenment, he gives up, comes back from eternal bliss, and comes back and plays in the human body, in order to be an instrument through which people can get free, right?
Right.
And that's fine, but you can get a little self-serious about it, And so to me, I call it the bodhisattva.
I think that's a lot easier, because that other track, I took on a vow. I think I heard it from Ram Dass, or maybe I misheard it, and it was to practice unbearable compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a decade of that, or a decade and a half, or two, lifetime. So
I would combine unbearable compassion with unbearable lust for beauty. What do you think inspires a great artist? A great artist, right? What makes me rework a poem or a song until it's right, and God looked at His creation.
Unbearable lust for beauty. Oh my gosh, isn't that just the divine razor's edge?
Exactly, and that's to me what inspires me as a professional astrologer for 40-odd years.
Yes.
If I ever do one single reading that's not magical, I feel yuck. It's like, how'd you miss it? You didn't have a good enough time, because what you're communicating to your client, you're mirroring their genius. You're not telling them what to do. You're not predicting this is going to happen to you. I'll predict initiations. You're going to have this kind of thing that's going to come up, kind of things come in front, that's going to challenge you.
Writer on set.
What, writer on set? And like, for example, if the planet of freedom visits the planet of relationship, your lover might say, let's live in separate houses, or there'll be some change,
Yes.
And it's not, whether it's good or bad is up to you. It's free will astrology. I always come from the point of view that the universe is always trying to give me heaven on earth. Okay, which is very humbling, because it's like, how come I'm not experiencing it? Well, let's take a look, And so that continual transformation of any situation into something that you finally perceive as perfect. Once you stop resisting it or banging against it or being full of shit or whatever, and you finally go, that's what the wife has been trying to tell me, or that's why that didn't show up,
And that's what I was blind to before, and now I'm learning how to see beyond blindness.
Yeah, and so, once I gave up beating myself over the head and finally realized you're human, as my teacher once said, if humans didn't make mistakes, they wouldn't be perfect. So don't beat yourself up. Yeah. Just wake up quickly. I don't like this. Okay. Is there an action or just a shift of attitude or what? Mm-hmm. And how quickly can we shift it? Especially in the light of what I call the three superpowers, which I think are the missing ingredient in the human species.
Please, tell us more.
They correspond to the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Uranus was discovered in 1781, which is the year the U.S. beat the British, and non-monarchy was established on the Earth. The idea that you can make up your own life, you can make up your own government, you can make up the whole show, and you don't answer to anybody in this world, and there's no divine right of kings, there's a divine right of us to be free.
All of us.
Yeah, it's all of us. And so that got established the year that Uranus was discovered, okay? And so the planet of creativity and genius and thinking outside the box and being co-creator, which rules the next 2,000 years, the age of Aquarius, that's a long story.
Yes.
That was discovered then. 1846, Neptune was discovered. About the time we started to let in, okay, if we can make up any kind of world we want, we're not waiting on the kings, we do it. What kind of world do you want to make up? And more important, how does it work for everyone? So abolishing slavery, for example, or putting mentally ill people in mental hospitals instead of prisons. Compassion came in.
Yes.
And then 1930 was Pluto, the underground, which was, among other things, psychology really started to take off, and totalitarianism started to take off, and the idea that we could really shift the power structure so we could have a world that really worked for the working class really began to come in on the heels of the stock market crash and the Great Depression. That's what it took. And so Pluto just blew up the whole game, and said, let's see what we can really make up, and so anyway, in our individual lives, to me, there are three superpowers, and they go together, and they lead to each other, and they allow us to play life on a completely other level when you get past Saturn. Saturn is practicality, control, paying the bills, being loyal, integrity. It's cool, it's important, be responsible, etc. But in the end, it's like, what else you got? Where's the magic,
Yes.
Is that all there is?
Exactly the song I was thinking of. I know, I was waiting on you. And so, three magical powers, the real Harry Potter. Okay. Actually, I was very honored when Hermione, as in Emma Watson, went from Hogwarts to my university, actually. But the three superpowers,
Yes.
the real superpowers. In other words, you got science over here, and you got religion over here, and they have a really incomplete picture, both of them. But if we had a scientific approach to the divine, because I was an atheist as a teenager, I wasn't going to just believe some belief system, but there was some point when, in French, experiential search and experimental research are the same. Okay? So to find out for yourself what is true from your own practical experiments,
Yes.
And so you find out one, there's an unlimited source of happiness inside you that does not depend on anything in the world or even your own personality. It is independent of it all. It is as what Jesus would call the kingdom of heaven within, the pearl of great price, the treasure that thieves can't break in and steal, moth and rust don't corrupt. What is that place inside right now, which is what a lot of the Christians have been missing, because they think heaven's in the future. It's like, he didn't say that. He said it's at hand in you right now. Wakey, wakey. And you don't have to, but it's real.
Excuse me on the wakey. Other power in the room here. Who's speaking on the phone?
Hey guys, can you just keep it down?
Jesus.
Please, thank you. Please, just keep
Jesus.
Okay.
All right.
Is this
good.
impossible? Or?
We're doing it anyways.
It's all fine.
All right.
Good.
So,
And-
it's all what you tune in and tune out.
Thank you.
And so to realize that regardless of circumstance, if you can get yourself free of circumstance, if you can go inside all of your three big attachments, your mind, blah, 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 your emotional, blah, 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 and your sensory, physical, if you get beyond the three fly traps, whatever, the three things that grab your consciousness, and take it inside, you can experience eternal bliss. Okay? And when you do, it feels like it's the end of the path, but it's actually the beginning, because it creates the contrast. Here's perfection, and here's what you've been doing. And here's all your habits, all the ways in which you betray perfection. Now the show begins. Kick off.
So does that mean you're living that all the time, 24/7, 365?
It means that I'm doing my best to. It means I flop 10,000 times a day, whatever, and I succeed many times a day. It means I was sitting there meditating, whatever, or attuning. Meditation is so much baggage. I was, tuning in to the inside and listening to you guys too, with the previous show.
Yes.
And just saying, and going, okay, supremely perfect intelligence, which we'll get, that's the second superpower. Take over my mouth, take over everything, make what you want to have come through. So I just sit back and bliss out, and you move my mouth, and we all have a good time.
So tell us the first one again and the second.
Okay, the first one is a feeling one. It is happiness, uncaused by anything finite. Okay, you're going to have your ups and downs, right? That's not going to change. That's in this world. You like things, you don't like things. You make choices. You make good choices. You make bad choices. You try to refine your choices. It's got nothing to do with that, though it does, because the more you attune to that place, that kicks in the second superpower, which is divine intelligence. There's divine love or ecstasy or heaven within, where you no longer seek happiness from the world. You already have it. That changes the whole game, totally, on so many levels. First of all, it eliminates a lot of fuck-ups, because a lot of fuck-ups, come from the fact that you're not happy, you're agitated, you're reactive, you're in the mood, you're lusting after something you shouldn't be lusting after. Not in should, I don't mean good, bad, but just like, it ain't gonna work if you go that direction.
It's not that.
It's
ultimately not healthy or sustainable.
Yeah, you become more unseducible. So you go to that place, I'm already happy,
Yeah.
and then a generosity and a compassion kicks in, right? Because you see everybody else. And you go, man, I'm lucky. You know? And so, but you got to watch out about the do-gooder impulse, because it's not about do-gooder. As Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching says, the fool tries to do good and is therefore not good. The sage doesn't try to do good and is therefore good. Because it's beyond any idea of good. It's just love comes through you and does the perfect action. But love has to be united with divine intelligence, which is genius, intuition, the psychic, the ability to read something. You know, my years hitchhiking, living on nothing for years, which is my initiation. I wanted to play right to the edge, all the way to the edge, and watch what happens when you have to tune in every second, or you're in the middle of nowhere with no food, no shelter, no nothing, and the cops say, if you're still hitchhiking there, we're going to put you in jail in 15 minutes. It makes you, it's that great line from Samuel Johnson years ago, nothing concentrates the mind so much as the prospect of being hanged in the morning. You know, it's like when things get urgent, shall we say. You know, you got your urgencies, I got mine, the world has its urgencies, you know. And if you're also, when you're already happy and you're looking at, what can I contribute to this world out there that would really, 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 really make a difference, that would really bring the humans to a juicier place, okay? Then the higher intuition, see, the bliss is beyond time and space.
Is it wrong of me to, I'd never imagined, you know, being happily hung?
Actually, I got to tell you a story.
Okay.
Let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
Okay, the Quakers. When the Quakers came to the New World, you know, when the English folks were first settling, you know, the coast of what is now the United States of America, they were kicked out of Boston. They were hanging Quakers in Boston. Okay, the Puritans. All right.
What?
Yes, and Roger Williams had created Rhode Island.
Yes.
And Providence as a sanctuary for freedom of conscience. He said, in having a sense of, he'd been kicked out in the middle of winter, could have died easy with no community, no nothing. The Narragansett Indians gave him some land, and he called the place Providence. He said, in having a sense of God's merciful providence unto me in my distress, I called the place Providence, a desire that it might be a haven for persons distressed for conscience. So when they hanged two of the Quakers, they spared the woman, Mary Dyer, and she went down to Rhode Island, and then her intuition said, you got to go back, right? And so they're hanging her now, and she's up on the scaffold right near where her statue is now, in front of the State House, in front of Boston Common. They were about to hang her. And someone looks at her and goes, are you in paradise? And she says, oh, I've been in paradise 3 days. And then they hung her. And so, yeah, okay. Because it's only a body. Now, that's easy to say. You can only say that if you're anchored in a solid place that is not the body, not the mind, not the emotions. You have all three of those. Sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too cold, sometimes you stub your toe, sometimes someone didn't like you. You'll have that stuff.
Yes.
But if you have this other thing, you know, it's like those are the waves on the top of the ocean, but there's all kinds of ocean under the waves that isn't the waves. It doesn't interrelate with the winds. It's solid, it's deep, it's rich. When you're in that place, the ups and the downs are just part of the story.
Yes.
You know? I remember when I was co-writing a script with Johanna Kern, and as soon as it would get comfortable, she would say, okay, we have to introduce a crisis now. Doesn't that sound like God? So
that's great.
So the perfect intuition is what I'm talking about.
I haven't spoken with Joanna in a couple of years. I'm going to have to reach out to her.
Oh, absolutely. She's doing great.
Wonderful.
We've been wonderful friends now. And so again, once you're already happy, you're no longer seeking anything time space. You want to give, right? And divine intelligence wants to tell you how to give, wants to give you perfect guidance about how to bring something absolutely divine to the world, you know? And so that's the planet Uranus is the higher, it's the planet of genius. I'll give you an example. A practical example. One day in Montreal many years ago, overnight my passive income disappeared, and I'm got a lease and no foreseeable source of income. And in the morning I wake up and the intuition says, you need a desk. And my rational mind goes, how about rent and food, you know? And the intuition says, why don't you go get a $2 breakfast? So I go get a $2 breakfast. And then it says, why don't you go down to the McGill Ghetto and to the bookstore, get some 50-cent books. I'm like, I don't know what this is about, but okay, fine. You know, it's January, Montreal, which is no joke, right? You know, and I'm coming back, and the intuition says, get off at the library. And I'm like, I think it's closed today. I'm carrying books, blah, blah, blah. Get off. And here's the key. I go, if you had 10 seconds left to live, what would you do now? I'd get off the bus and see where this fucking thing is leading me, right? This is the adventure. The rest is my cliche. It's my story. Give me something new, right?
Yes.
And so I get off. The library's closed. Okay, start walking home, and the last intuition goes, go in the alleyway. Alleyways are full of snow in Montreal. I'm wearing sneakers. That's very nice. Go in the alleyway. I go in the alleyway, and there's my desk. Take the books home, come back, put it on my head, and take it home. I completed my assignment. Are you with me?
Yeah.
The assignment has nothing to do with this world. You know the term born again, if you go in John chapter 3.
Yes.
It can also translate as generated from above. Okay? What that means is it has no earthly motive. It's not like I need to go get some dinner, or I need to call back so-and-so and handle the disagreement we had, or whatever. It's got none of that. Its only motive is follow me. Its only motive is take one step and I'll tell you the next one. That's the courage, which we'll get to.
That's perfect. I get so impatient there. Like I wanted that. Okay, there's one. Where's this going? 10 steps and 100 steps.
Yeah,
and
that happens when we're not happy. That happens when we're not happy, right? When's the good stuff going to come? You are the good stuff. You are the party.
Exactly. Wake up.
Yeah, as Jesus put it, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Yeah.
If you've seen the artist, you've seen the muse.
Yes.
If you've seen the leaf floating, you've seen the wind. The invisible behind the visible, right?
Yes.
And so that's the second superpower. I could give you a zillion examples. Okay, one more if I may on that line. And I tend to write about each one of these. I go to see my top student. I go take a bus coast to coast. I land in Santa Cruz. I got $2 and change, and it's the afternoon. And my main bag has just been lost in San Francisco. It has the address and phone number. I'm 1,000 miles from any address I know, right? And it's late in the afternoon. I got $2. Okay, stay cool. It's the key. Stay cool. Keep that mind down. What do you feel? I kind of know remember some of the street names. Go there. But shut up. Go there. So I go there and it said, slow down to the speed of being. Slow down to the speed of soul. Just enjoy each step. Be present. Relax. That's how you do it. That's how you tap into the superpowers. So I'm walking along, and for some weird reason, my eyes fall down. And carved into the sidewalk, I don't even believe this, carved into the sidewalk, it says, stop, look, and listen to Guru Maharaji, who was my teacher. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Well, I'm home, obviously. I don't know what the freak is going on, but I'm home.
Yes.
In the middle of Santa Cruz, homeless in my home, but I'm in my being, right? So far, so good, right? I turn around, walk half a block, and run right into my host. Now that is a 30-second window, buddy, where I'm screwed, right?
That's living in the infinite eye, the third eye, isn't it?
And the thing is, it's the steadiness of it that matters. It has to work every time, or it's not really science. This is a science.
So how do you get to that
Cultivate
steady state?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
Otherwise you're going to end up not finding your host.
Exactly. And again, that was really narrow, right?
Yeah.
From one host to another.
Yeah.
I've seen the light.
So you understand, I would never want to live that stuff again, but I would never not have lived that
Right.
stuff, because
Yeah.
that's the knowledge you can't
But
get in college.
But that's the thing. We want to cultivate that
Exactly.
that state somehow to be able to find those.
Cherish and champion, and like I've coming to understand it's divinely designed for each one of us. So there's no exact replica. That's what makes it so exquisite, because it is
Exactly. It's beyond. It's like Dylan. To live outside the law, you must be honest. If you're going to be beyond the rules, you got to be so in there, so in that groove. You can beat this game without having to fight anybody necessarily. You may at times have to be who you are, even when it's like, I don't believe I have to be this. Here goes nothing, right? If my thought dreams could be seen, they'd probably put my head in a guillotine, right? That whole business. But it's
Who
like,
said that again?
that's Dylan again.
Oh, okay.
Dylan is practically scripture to a lot of people.
So what is sort of you
the
say
third
sort of
superpower.
scripture, like divine scripture here, but like isn't that each one of us?
We're all scripture, sure.
Yeah,
But we got to tune to it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good line in a poem and
What
there's not
about
so
when
good
we're
line in a
not
poem.
tuned to it,
What?
or not connected, or like even aware. Like,
Yeah.
How do we? How
Exactly.
How can we? Or you even. Support this, because I see that with people that I love, and now I just have to love them more because I honor their space.
Yeah, you cannot fix them. And that's the
No.
key. As again, my teacher Maharaj said one time, or Prem Rawat is his legal name. I said that the one who said about if human beings didn't make mistakes, they wouldn't be perfect. Oh yeah, you can't save the world. The world's saved. It's got a creator. Now that's not a recipe for passivity. It's saying it's already going to its resolution, but people who only see 3D or their ideas, they go, oh my God, the bad guys are winning, they're polluting the streams, and the good guys, what are we going to do? You got to get outside duality. As he put it, if you want to push a car, you need 1 foot outside the car. Mm-hmm. And the foot outside the car is being anchored in heaven, anchored in that perfect place. If you're anchored in that perfect place, as they say in the New Testament, all things work together for good for them that love the Lord, lady, whatever. Mm-hmm. And right next to that is the passage, if God be with us, who can be against us? And what do you mean by God? The universal bliss that sits inside all beings, unknown to most of them, which is aching to be called upon. Oh, I know. This is what he said. The higher power will even make the effort for you to get you connected. All you have to do is put your wish there that you want it. It's not 100 hours of meditation. It's not 1,000 prostrations on the floor. It's not, give up all your possessions. You can do that. It's not. I did that once. It's not. That ain't it. You give it up inside. If you give it up inside, you can be a billionaire because you possess as if you didn't possess. As the Chinese billionaire Jack Ma said, once it gets to $1 billion, it's not your money anyway. Mm-hmm. Now, to a spiritual person, once it gets to 1 penny, it's not your money anyway. Even your body isn't your body. What do you mean by that? The you that you made up isn't really you.
Yes.
Okay, it's just a agreed upon construct. To be a creator, your personality is a creation. Mm-hmm. Your soul is a creator. You made up your personality. You can make up another one.
Yes.
That's what the Declaration of Independence is all about. We're going to make up a government. And George, in the U.S., George Washington knew everything he did was a precedent, not just a president. And, the president farts at 3 a.m. on his first day in office. Okay, all presidents from here on shall fart on their first day in office. Whatever, we can't even imagine what that felt like, right? To totally make it up and be the only white race democracy on the planet. Yeah. What an amazing moment. Can we have that now? Are we that big? Are we that powerful?
Just as citizens of the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what country. We happen to be in Canada. Great. Let's bring it. Let's be it.
And so to me, we need to bring something bigger than what's here.
Yes.
And bring it without any need to change anybody else.
Right.
And a lot of that, get back to all the different ways in which you can get in touch with that. It's mainly not what you do, but what you don't do. Fear, judge, manipulate, control, doubt, etc. That once you go to this place inside, it automatically makes you hungry for it. It's more fundamental than the sex urge. You don't have to tell someone, you should be attracted to people. Well, they don't need your advice about that. It happens, okay? Yeah. Similarly, once you tap into this place inside, it's compelling. You want to get back to it. It's like a drug, except it's a good drug, and you can't OD, okay? And the desire to get back to it automatically makes you let go of your shit. You don't have to try to let go of your shit. Because once you have this other anchor, you've gained the ability to stay with it. Mm-hmm. And once you gain the ability to stay with it, then it triggers the intuition, which then runs your life far better than you could. And that's the second wonderful superpower that you get addicted to. Mm-hmm. And then you go to the third superpower, that's Uranus, and the third one is Pluto, which has to do with power. The first one has to do with joy, love, feeling. The second one has to do with higher intelligence, perfect intelligence. And I just gave you a couple examples of that. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Mm-hmm. And the whole story from start to finish, how you let it lead, and bang.
It's almost like a little bit of a hum, like
exactly, purring.
That buzz, even that.
It's like purring,
quiet, and that's breath.
And behind the breath, there's a buzz behind the breath where you experience yourself as the buzz. You experience yourself as vibration, invisible vibration that feels like substance. There's a word, and so that you're not your body, your mind, your personality, whatever. You have them. That's your vehicle here. That's your Monopoly piece that keeps you in the game, right? Without that, you're a ghost, Mm-hmm. And I want the peace. I take good care of the peace, but I don't think it's me, But I want to be here. I got things to do here, and so I have a body. You know,
Yeah, it's like being a good pet owner and like, responsible friend.
my pet. Yes. Was it Saint Francis called it Brother Donkey? His body, and he was.
That's a good one, Brother Donkey.
Yeah, and he was very hard on his body. He died at 43. But anyway, back to the third superpower.
He was a beautiful soul.
Beautiful soul. It's great that the Pope named himself after him. Yeah.
And his prayer
Saint
from
Clare?
Saint Francis of Assisi.
Right.
Lord, make me an instrument of Thy peace.
Yep.
Lord, make
Doubt.
an instrument. Where there is injury, let me sow pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is
Right.
despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, sorrow, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love, or to
Exactly.
be served as to serve. And it goes on.
Et
For it is
cetera.
in dying that we are born to eternal life.
Yep. And that eternal life is here right now because we die to identifying with the personality. We die to the false self. It's great.
Well, the false, that's really good, and that's like the ego falls into that too, yes?
Yeah, we have an image. I am this, and a lot of the times it's the negative self-image. A lot of times it's the grandiose Trumpian
Or I
self-image.
am that, and it's even all that
Yeah,
duality.
it's all just stuff. It's just a narration you told yourself. And so to experience yourself as something perfect with nothing, I call it nothing to prove land. I had to be beaten into pieces till I finally got to nothing to prove land. There ain't no place like it, It's and you can slip back into your pretentious horse shit the next minute, but but at least you know where to get back to it because you realize it ultimately isn't satisfying. So the pull of that satisfaction becomes virtue because when I'm in that place, my actions are perfect, and I will only do my horoscopes from that place. Because I realized one day I said, you're not primarily an astrologer; you're primarily a channeler. And by the quality of what the people get, from the feedback. My job is to mirror you to you. And I always say, don't believe a word I say. My job is to trigger your knowing, and then you own it. I was the boat that got you there, okay? But don't believe me. Just see where it takes you when you hear me, and
Yes.
see what you like and what you identify with, and then that's yours. And so to get beyond all beliefs, that's the mental. All game plans, that's the mental. You can have game plans, but let them come from source. As what the Course in Miracles says, the healed mind does not plan. It receives the plans. And so the third level, power, is the key. Power means to get to that place where everything works for you. Because you work for everything. Works for everything, not your idea, a Marxist idea, a Christian idea, whatever. No idea. Source. Because intuition is beyond all ideas. In the Tarot, it's the fool stepping off the cliff. And because when you're following intuition, you're always stepping off the cliff, right? The title of my biography, which will include these stories, and sketches of other people I met, the title will be "Here Goes Nothing," because the fool is numbered 0, right? And the intuition only comes to an empty mind.
And it's also no thing.
Exactly. And so that faith that you get, because when you've done it long enough and you realize this works every freaking time, or when it doesn't work, you go, what? In Mary Stuart's trilogy about Merlin, there are times when he'll be following the guidance and he'll be like, what? What? And then boom, Deus Ex Machina, whatever, boom, there it is. It all turns out. And it's just fun. I mean, it really is fun if you get past the fear. And believe me, this interconnection will, in the Bible, perfect love casts out fear. Right? When you're in the perfect love, then, and you experience yourself as that, and you don't much care what your bank. You want me to have a billion is kind of too much, but if I put it in charity, that'd be okay. I'll take 10 mil,
Yeah.
But and a salary, But when you're in that place where you have already, at least for the moment, fulfilled the purpose of your life. And all you want to do is stay in that groove, but you can't hang on to it. It doesn't work that way. It has to be continually surrendered and reinvented. So the domain of power, what my teacher called the desireless desire, the price of staying in that place is you have to only wish and do what that love wants you to wish and do. Okay? That's the showdown. Okay? That's where you win it or lose it. Right there. Every second. And so when you experience, universe wanted, when all of a sudden, the organizer of the largest act of civil disobedience in U.S. history, Rennie Davis, is running this festival down in the Astrodome for my teenage guru, and he asked me to do a horoscope of the festival for a press release. Then that leads to being in the New York Times and Rolling Stone, and when I'm 23, that's where destiny takes over. It does itself, but you got to show up, right? You got to show up with everything you got, and you got to give what. And how do you know what your very best is? You're satisfied with it. That's how you know it's your very best, right?
Yes.
I go over a poem, and I that line isn't quite right, or a screenplay. That first scene doesn't really quite have it, and you stay with it until God looks at his creation and saw that it was good. And so that Pluto level is an overcoming of the fear of all consequences. At that point, the only fear is the fear of being disconnected from source.
So it's disconnecting from the outcome.
Yeah, disconnecting from any idea of what the outcome even should be.
Yeah,
you can have it. You can say, I want to show up on time to catch the bus.
Right, to catch the bus, but you have to let go of actually catching the bus.
Right, if it's late.
Whatever happens, that's what it is.
Yeah, when I missed the bus by seconds today, and then my intuition just led me across the street, and I caught the bus the other way, which leads to a different subway station, but it's the same result. There's almost no difference in time. But you got to be so in the moment that you don't listen to this guy. Oh no, I missed the bus! Shut up! And then you go. And then you just be present, and then the universe takes you on a ride. And again, I'm interested in the scientific side of this. I'm interested in scientific proof of astrology, for example.
Yes.
Okay? To be able to say to a perfect stranger, you're a natural executive, but I think it would have to be like a non-profit, compassion-oriented organization. She says, want to know what I do? Executive director of Amnesty International, her country. These things give you faith, right?
Yes.
Or someone, a total skeptic, and his mother buys him a reading, from me. And I just send off MP3s, right? And he's 32 years old. And he actually apologized to his mother for being such a skeptic. He said it's the first time in his life he ever felt understood. I'm like, fuck.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think I've got a couple of clients I'm gonna have to just gift it to them because they're so skeptical.
Exactly.
How do we love the skeptics or the
Well, it's when you don't feel threatened is when you can love. Like, they can be skeptics. But
and if they're always feeling threatened?
Just remember, it's their problem.
Yeah. Let them be where they are. It's the key. That's, again, the more you get used to the peace, the more you can own everything that makes you lose it. And sometimes it's a real surprise. You go, why am I unhappy right now? What's going on? And you go, okay, tell me. Oh, I forgot to call so-and-so. That would have been a disaster. The feeling of peace that comes when you know that this thing really is watching over you, but you got to know the practical angle of it, and you always have a right to happiness. You may be losing your eyesight, you may be bank account, your investment might have gone bust. Then you go, okay, this is perfect. This is one of the key moments of my life was when I finally got that prosperity has absolutely zero to do with what's in my pocket. Prosperity is my connection to the great wow, and my ability to read how it wants to make my life work now. There's no other prosperity but that, and there's no other necessary possession but that. You possess the connection, you have the universe. And again, as I talk to you, you can tell I'm not coming from a friggin' philosophy. I'm coming from having had my butt on the line and been saved a zillion times. But you can't do that if you don't step out.
Yes.
And to be able to step out with no sense of martyrdom. No. Yes. How you doing? I like
Hey,
it.
Shadow loves you. Look at
All right.
Shadow, look at you.
Shadow, go lie down.
Oh my God.
Go lie down.
Oh, Shadow, yes. Way to go,
My
kid.
shadow came to visit. Yes.
I love our shadows.
Yeah. That was the first time she's done that. But
It's the first time I've included our shadows, like on the plural. Like I've gone from, my shadow, like our shadows. Holy.
so yeah. And speaking of shadows, the nature of this thing is the more you want the light more than anything else, the more you're able to see and face your corruption. To go, man, I was really a jerk there, wasn't I? Or, I was trying to manipulate her into bed, wasn't I? Or whatever. And you look back and go, can I stand behind that? Which is in the end what it's all about. So a friend of mine once said, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you can stand behind it.
What does that mean? Stand behind.
Stand behind it?
Exactly.
If that were on my resume when I croak, If
Yeah.
I were in front of the Creator, not the Creator's judge, I call it non-judgment day. The doorway to heaven is non-judgment day.
Well, that's the, you have to look at those instances, and you got to be, you don't want to, you got to forgive yourself for those things too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And just let it go, let it move on from there, right?
I was hanging out with a Venus and Scorpio woman. They're very gutsy. And she said at one point, she said, I forgive you. And she said it from such a gut place that there was no possibility of doubting it. You know, people can say, I forgive you, but they're still holding on somewhere. But when they go, I forgive you, it's just like, gut to gut. It's cool,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
You fucked up. You owned it. I feel you. I trust you. We're back at zero again. You know? And so that ability, and I'm still working on it, because you see, again, the more you observe yourself. I remember we were about to fly to India in '72 to see the 14-year-old guru. And one guy was sort of smiling and saying it to the other, because it was a charter. And he said, my mind is freaking out right now. Now, how many people could say that? My mind is freaking out, but I'm not.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Wisdom.
Yeah, that ability,
And discernment, actually.
to know who you are, to experience who you are as this vibrational heart, right? And you have a personality, it's important, but, that ain't you. And once you realize that's not you, when you realize nothing finite is you, and yet the finite's cool. We're not going off on a cave here, okay? We're going to play.
Yes.
We're going to play. Well, I'm here to play time-space, but you got to know how. How do you play time-space with perfect guidance? How do you play time-space from that fulfillment? Anyway, the point I was saying is that the lust for that peace, the lust for that joy, becomes so compelling that you are forced to face everything that you're doing that violates that. And it's seemingly endless.
And playing time space is really different from working time space, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my definition of work is playing with results.
Yes.
Okay, because if I'm not having a good time, I'm a lousy astrologer. I finally had to face that. That I did one long distance reading for a Polish woman from my head, because I had a lot of readings, got to get them done, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't slow down and say, and pray or ask for help until the muse or the joy just whoosh right through, because that's when it blows them away, when I do that. And like I can kick myself over. It's like, okay, learn that lesson one more time. You're here to party, but you're here to party professionally.
I love that. So speaking of professionally, is this one of the works that you do, or please
Yeah.
tell me about some of the work you do, how people can reach you, and
Yeah, I tell you what, probably the email's the only way right now. I haven't even bothered with a website or anything lately. In fact, I've not been seeking clients. I let them find me,
Yes.
and that's fine with me. So take your pick. I guess the two easiest to remember. There's three easy to remember. There's the Crazy Lion, Leon Fou, LIONFOU at Hotmail. There's the Boogie Sattva, but that's a hard one to spell. At Yahoo. Then there's Yum Planet at Yahoo. That's easy to remember.
Yum Planet, YUM Planet at Yahoo.
Yeah.
.ca or com?
Com.
Beautiful.
So, but again, how can I put it? I've reached this place of surrender now where, again, I play astrologer. I don't need it, but it's a service. It's a way to support people,
Yes, yes.
I want no more or less clients than whoever shows up. I'm cool with whatever shows up, It's like one time I was sort of hired by someone to be kind of a waiter at her restaurant, but I knew it wasn't, I didn't want to be a waiter, but I knew the universe wanted me to be with her for a while, right? And then I got inheritance 3 weeks later, after we bonded. But there's a point where she had no customers one night. None. So we just sat there. It's okay. Zero is the perfect number of customers tonight. So let's hang with that. And the next thing you know, long after I quit and I had the money, she calls me up and she needs help because she can't handle all the business. And I walk in there, and then there's the former Premier of Ontario.
Yeah.
There's the biggest filmmaker in Canada, and then there's the King of Kensington guy, and they're all eating in her restaurant. Of course, she come up with new crises to mess her up, but that's another story. But that whole thing of when zero is okay,
Yes, that's beautiful.
when someone is yelling, when your beloved is yelling at you and is really hurt and mad, and it's okay. I'm here, baby. I'm listening. There's this great scene, two of the most romantic movies ever, really, are Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. If you heard the Before trilogy, and where they meet in 2 different European cities. And there's a moment when they're meeting after they, each have their own destiny, and they have they have other emotional attachments, and they meet, and she realizes in the back of the hired car, we're in danger of happening again, right? And she just rips into him. You know, and she even tells the driver, "Stop the car." And he says, "No, don't stop." You know, but he just hangs with her.
Yes.
He doesn't resist her. He doesn't explain that male shit, right? He just hangs with her and hangs with her and hangs with her. And then she invites her to visit him at her place. And let me finish this. And she starts imitating. She fixes him teen. She starts imitating Nina Simone, this white French girl. Starts imitating Nina Simone, right? If you can imagine that, right? And he's just sitting there on the floor, on the couch on the floor, and he's gone. He's gone. And she looks at him and goes, "You're gonna miss your flight." And he goes, "Yeah." And that's the end of the movie.
Oh, sweetness.
So why did I bring that up about the ability to be with
Yes.
whatever's there? Okay, that's the nature, because when you experience that being is a real experience. In fact, it's the only real experience. It's vibrating substance, invisible. Yes. And you are that, and you feel that, and you bathe in that, and it's endlessly nourishing, and it is the kingdom of heaven within, queendom, whatever. Within, you realize you've already got what you want. All you want to do is maintain what you got. You know, but you can't hang on to it. And the way you maintain it is by uniting your time-space game with infinity. Remember the whole thing about 1 foot outside the car, you know? And so when you're locked into the time-space, outside the time-space, you're in the infinity place. I don't need anything. What I need to do is express the love.
Yes.
And it may not even involve doing. It might be involved listening. It might just be anything, okay? But I need to do what the love wants to do, which then creates the intuition, which gives you only what the love wants to do. Again, born again, generated from above.
Yes.
And then once you, that's the one desire that comes from abundance.
Yes.
All other desires come from lack, right? I have the happiness, I want to share it. I can't try to share it because that'll get me back into my personality again, I'll lose the happiness. This is tricky shit, okay? It's very subtle, it's very subtle. Again, because I've walked the walk, I've made all the mistakes.
Me too.
Yeah, and finally I said, look, it's okay. You know, it's okay. As my teacher would say, you know, what you can fall on your face a zillion times, and the power will always be behind you, and be happy that you tried.
Yeah. And I still haven't made all the mistakes yet.
And trust the lust. That's a good word. Trust the lust. Make a song out of that. But to get back to what I was trying to say, that when the one desire that comes from abundance, and therefore it's the one desire that attracts abundance.
Yes.
See? And again, what happened when I, you know, followed, you know, well, a friend of mine, you know, he chased his guru all over the country, and then and his jalopy, and then it led him to this perfect income-making thing that got him all his money, and allowed him to start a recording studio and have like a Grammy-winning song, et cetera, et cetera. And on his four-door BMW, it's just a license plate that says Pranam. I know where this BMW came from. It came from surrendering to the bliss. Caring about nothing except being in that connection. Okay? But and then you realize the only way to stay in that connection is to only want, I mean, you can have desires, but to only pursue, to only follow what the love wants you to do. You know, some charts show up. Okay, I got clients. Am I going to do it for the money? Or no. I will take the money, believe me. But I will go back and source and go, what do you want this person to know? How do you know that you know? It's this place where spirit touches the intellect. My third eye is wide open right now. Yes. You know, that's the other way of connecting. You know, that since I was like 22, right here, there's an obscure line in the New Testament, I'm quoting the New Testament a lot today, where Jesus says, the eye is the lamp of the body. Therefore, if your eye is single or whole, your whole body will be filled with light. Now, for me, that is literal.
Yes.
You know, when I just, like right now, when I'm in the groove, I know because I'm buzzing and glowing, and the light is pouring from here all the way down through the body, you know? And again, even what we call body, our illusion is that this is solid. No. This is 99.999% empty space, but it has a magnetic field that we can't penetrate right now. Who knows? And what we perceive with our five senses does not exist. Okay? There is no green tree out there. It's just an experience your mind made up. I could say brain, but I don't want to be a materialist. You know, your mind made up that experience. It's not out there. And so once you really understand what substance is and what power is and how to unite, because once you follow only what the Spirit says to do, the whole world works for you because you're working for it. You're working from love, and therefore you are not in that movie where you attract even if it seems like you attract opposition, like a good football game or something.
Yeah.
The way I put it, as far as duality, is if you took a football and walked it across the goal line with no opposition, nobody would care. But if you're up against the meanest defense in the league, you get yourself a multi-million-dollar contract, right?
Yes.
So here we are in this world, this crazy, crazy world, and they're pulling all out to create a permanent fascist dictatorship all over the world. Relax, relax, relax. All is well. Relax. What is your assignment in this movie? This is the heroic moment. Everyone gets to be heroes now.
Yes.
But how? How do you get to that place? I really believe that people understood what I'm saying right now. You know, they'd be beaten down the doors. It's
Yes.
just a question of what is the language. You know, I mean, the early Christians had their language, the early Muslims had their language, the Buddhists had their language. Those are the three big proselytizing religions, right?
So what's today's language for the eternal age or this
Yeah.
consciousness?
Yeah.
this
What is Saint Boogie's gospel?
Yeah.
And to me, it's the perfect fusion. One of the
Saint
big
Boogie's
gospel.
gospel?
You know.
And there are a couple of songs from that you shared a bit. Please, as you wish, love to learn more about that.
Well, I bought me a ticket to the edge of the world, and I stepped on out. I didn't care just what it was all about. And I ran down the street, and I danced in the alley, and I jumped on over the fence. Took a free ride skating down the side of coincidence. I said, smash on through. I said, slide on by. I said, take my chances till I die. Well, I bought me a ticket, sang me a song. The key's a little high. Well, I told them I just wouldn't go along with nothing disguised as next year's pay. I ain't making no investments that don't pay off. I ain't making no investments that don't pay off. I ain't making no investments that don't pay off today. You know, it's to undo the damage that St. Paul did when he said the spiritual man is at war with the natural man. Well, fuck you. You know, spiritual man, woman wants to merge with the natural man,
There's
woman.
not war with any.
Exactly. Your natural, funky animal self
Yeah.
and your transcendent, blissful self want to become one, and then we have a prototype of a human being, which is what people are looking for. And the pagans kind of had that, but they didn't have the divine love at quite the same level, I think, as the gospel. You know, the idea that there is a heaven that's within and is beyond all whatever.
Yes.
To me, if you've got better magic, you will win. So we can all play victim if we want. And I'm not discounting anybody's suffering. I'm not saying that it was really nice to steal 3.5 continents from the native peoples and enslave millions of Africans and all that kind of crap. Fine, forgive it.
Yeah.
How do we empower ourselves now? What is that power that cannot be resisted and cannot be opposed because it's all the players? It's Trump.
Yes.
It's Trump. Okay? It's everybody. That's that sympathy for the devil thing, you know?
Yes.
It's everybody. Because it has to be a
and empathy.
yeah.
Because
Yes.
I've heard it said, our job here, as we're conscious, is to make friends of our enemies. To make angels of our friends.
Yeah, but don't try too hard.
Exactly.
Let them be where they are.
And I heard, and archangels of our beloveds. But but the beloveds is also within ourselves, and to embrace ourselves in these divine standards, and it's also discovering those divine beings, and in others, and in ourselves, and others, the past, the future, and the infinite present.
If people want to be seen, for their true self, and then maybe they'll take some mirroring of the not nice stuff, but it's not our business. Let me tell you a quickie about this.
Yes.
Everyone at age 29 and a half gets what's called the Saturn return, and they get
Yes.
it again at 59. And my Saturn, which is one's work in life, is the 23rd degree of Virgo, which is the symbol for it is a lion tamer. Okay, and if you look in the news on the day you were born,
Yes.
you might get insights because everyone had your chart. See,
Yes.
so the news is you. Okay,
Yes.
so I looked it up one time when I was at Brown years ago, and the day before my birthday, it was 3 African American soldiers in the Korean War,
Yes.
and one was standing guard, one was reading from the Bible, and one was listening. That's the lion tamer. It's creating a spiritual space of peace in the midst of danger, right?
Yes.
And so the day of my Saturn return, there was this mad black street prophet I used to hang with, named Elias, amazing guy, genius, crazy. And he had me by the collar going, "You only 3/4 dead, you understand me?" And I did a prayer. Okay, God, you obviously want to get through to me here. So it was a very quick prayer, you know. And all I said was, I feel you. He couldn't sustain the drama, right? What are you gonna do with that? There's nothing to push against.
Yeah.
I'm not resisting. I'm not running. I'm not arguing. I'm not defending.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You can't get that movie going, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he told me 6 years later, it's like he just popped away. And he let me go, and a tear came down each eye, and he said, "I can't believe I'm here. One thing I know for certain, this isn't the first time we've been together." And so that was my lion tamer initiation, right? And I mean, he wasn't gonna hurt me, but he had to act like he was. Right?
Yes,
It was a bluff. You know, try to bluff the weak little white guy with your, you know, your Harlem riff, whatever, you know. But what was interesting, he usually had a very esoteric professorial kind of thing, and then all of a sudden he was like a street pimp defending his turf, right? Dakota's dead! What happened to your professor there? It was great. It was worth it. Worth the price of admission, man.
Total.
So why am I bringing this up? Oh, about how the lion tamer approach to the world.
Yes.
The world's crazy. Okay, it's nuts.
Yeah.
All right, they're polluting this and they're polluting. Oh, wow, okay. Oh, that's nasty. And the mind wants to really get into it. What are we going to do about that? Oh, my God, what's happening? What's happening? Survival game, right? Mm-hmm. And you go, wait a minute, go back inside. Go back inside. You want to go to dead? You know, go back inside.
Yeah.
Go back inside. Mm-hmm. And, okay, where is my blissful role in this movie? Where do I bring a different vibration? Where does everything serve me? Because, you know, banks have done some nasty things in this world, but they've been good to me, you know? And so, am I going to focus on that? Or are we going to fight the tide? Or are we going to... It's like tacking in sailing, right? The wind is against you, seemingly. I remember that last... When the America's Cup finally left the U.S. after 132 years, I was watching it. I was very close to Newport myself, and they were the guy who was behind the American was like tacking and tacking and tacking and tacking. He couldn't get past the other guy, right? And so, when you learn how to tack, my teacher calls it learn how to duck. You know, when you learn how to tack, they will all work for you. Again, you can't believe it doesn't fit into the paradigm, right? Just like everything I'm saying doesn't fit into the pseudo-scientific 19th century materialism paradigm. Oh, this is the real world. The rest of that stuff is just fantasy, all right? Until you pull off a few miracles, yeah? Until you tell a complete stranger what their vocation is, you know? And it's not me, you know? So we need to bring what I call homo magus, the next level of what a human being can be. Just as the Enlightenment of the 18th century brought 500 BC, brought, you know, your Buddhism and your... you know, I mean, just the Greeks and all this kind of stuff, you know. Yes. And I remember thought for years. I said, I wonder if 500 BC was the only time in history that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all came together. Because just Neptune and Pluto only come together once every 600 years. Okay. And sure enough, it was 575 BC. All three of them came together. You know, and that was when we set the standard. We brought the idea of enlightenment to the story. You know, the Buddhists had their take, the Greeks had their take, but it was the foundation on which we built the idea that a world can work for everyone.
Yes.
That there are universal principles, there is a will for universal happiness, there is justice, there is reason, there is science, there is, you know.
And we've only been working at it now, you know, just a few millennia. So
Yeah.
like it's really
exactly.
Pretty incredible.
Exactly. And it's all coming to a head pretty quickly, which is great.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with urgency. You know, like urgency is like 1 second before orgasm. You got a problem with that? Is there a better place to be?
Oh, this is truly divine.
St. Boogie's gospel, you know, or St. Boogie's gospel is cheekiness is next to godliness, you know.
Oh, yes.
Or if I do any good, let it be accidental, you know. So genius is a learning disability. These all go on my gravestone. What's the other one? Oh God, I've just begun to exult. You know,
We've just begun to
exult.
exalt.
To celebrate, whatever. You know?
Yes.
Don't be confused by time and space. Yeah, so to me, it has been hard won, this connection. I mean, I got the connection at 21, okay? And it was zap, you know? And it was like, oh my God. And all of a sudden I saw it. I experienced the universe in me as one thing, you know? I experienced total ecstasy and total peace at the same time, you know? And now, like, this is it, man. And I was gone. I was hooked. You know, it didn't matter what happened after that. At age 21, just before I got graduated, I knew what I wanted. I knew what I was about. You know, and then it led to everything else. You know, lucky. You know, to never get caught in the rat race, and to never. I mean, we all get caught. We all make up our own rat races, but you know. But to have that ability to keep coming home and keep learning the lessons. You know.
And for this next decade, these next days or decade of yours, if where you would allow yourself to wish, what would you wish for?
My screenplay about Eleanor of Aquitaine and the Troubadour Revolution and the idea of the gentleman from the 12th century, it gets produced and it's got fantastic stars and, you know, the master teaching of what I call the 22 eases, the absence of which are the diseases. Okay, that includes the three superpowers. Well, each planet, it corresponds to 10 planets and 12 signs. It corresponds to the 22 cards of the major arcana in the tarot. 22 initiations, it's also the Kabbalah. 22 initiations of how to be a master creator, and each one is unavoidable. You got to learn each one. Mars, for example, it has 2 diseases and 1 ease. Mars is natural self-assertion and initiative. Just do it, make it happen, okay? And it could include boundaries. It's like, no, you can't do that around me, you know? I had a great breakthrough early on in a relationship where each of us within 24 hours was able to say to the other, no, that doesn't work for me. And the other person heard and responded and got it, you know? And so that's Mars. Now, the 2 Mars diseases is too much passivity or too much impatient, aggressive, rash stupidity.
Yes.
You know, Richard the Lionhearted, you know, doesn't put his armor on one night, and he gets a crossbow bolt that takes him out at 41, and the greatest protector of the troubadours is gone. You know, that's a Mars stupidity, right? And same thing with Saturn. You can be too much of a control freak, or you can be too loosey-goosey. You don't get things done on time, you don't keep your word, etc. Or you can be right in with the Saturn ease. The Saturn ease, is where you know you can count on yourself. You know you're going to do what you got to do. You attract to yourself people you can count on. You got enough money. That's the worldly sense of Saturn. But ultimately, Saturn is integrity. It's the knowing that you will walk those higher intuitions down through time, space, and the mundane, pay the bills, take care of business so the world works for you. You don't blame other people when things don't work. Oh, Bernie kept Hillary from winning. No, your stinkingly stupid campaign kept you from winning. Grow up. You know, no one has a right to anybody's vote. You know, are there any adults in the room here? I'm not criticizing Hillary or anybody else. I'm saying, come on, you know, stop blaming other people for when you're fuck ups. You know, and again, realism is Saturn also.
Yes.
You know, the ability to people to go, oh, they didn't support what I said. Yeah, well, take a look at how you said it. You know, were you looking down on them? You know, were you expecting them to understand things that they wouldn't understand? Grow up. That's Saturn, right? Yeah. And similarly, Jupiter's enthusiasm, the ability to believe, the ability to be enthused by the possibility, which one of the great, that's Qi, which is a key to health in Chinese medicine, right? That's Jupiter, you know, and it has 2 diseases, you know, too optimistic, you know, and the other one, which is can't believe in anything, or another one's like too dogmatic. It's got to be this way, you know, and so Venus, you know, not enough Venus, you got no charisma. You're the best person for the job, but they don't hire you. You had a lousy interview. Venus. Or you got too much charisma and you're addicted to praise and a relationship and all that, or you're addicted to chocolate or whatever it is, you know, too much, you know, or this place right in the middle. There's just enough chocolate. I think I like mine 85%, you know, so I don't get the sugar rush. You know, where you know how, taste, you know how to have magic. The waitress who, when she goes to the table, she's kind of dancing in her body. I'm like, ooh, look at that. She's actually digging being a waitress. You better be digging. You better be digging everything.
Yeah, being in the moment, like just like and.
Sun, full self-expression. You know, I'm here, baby. I'm taking up space. Then when you overdo it, you get a Leo rising like Trump. Me. You know, or that if you underdo it, it's like person doesn't even show up. You know, they may be nice, but they're not putting it out there. You know, Moon, soul. Do you have depth of feeling? Are you drowning in your feelings? Are your feelings cut off? Those are 2 diseases. And it's my belief that these 22 eases are the key to a human being. and how to play this life. And a lot of our physical ailments, in fact, let me take it at 5 levels. There's the physical ailment, then there's the holistic thing, the mental, emotional, spiritual causes behind the physical ailment. And again, each of these planets is a professor. Each of these signs is a professor. They're trying to teach us something. Are we on time for class? Because if we flunk one lesson, we can't build on it for the next lesson, and we get way behind in class. And then we get the disease, And so when you get used to ease, when you get used to the one bliss, it's like a prism. The one white light manifests as all the different colors. The one bliss manifests as practicality, manifests as aesthetics, manifests as soulfulness, it manifests as creativity, etc. What would it be like to have all of the... So the third level is education. How do we learn how to pass all the initiations that they're trying to teach us? Then the next level is culture. How do we have a culture where all these things are encouraged? And the next level is political. When in the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson says, the purpose of a government is to secure our divine rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Hello.
Yes.
Among these. That means there are others. 250 years later, nobody's asked the question. What else you got? What are our divine rights? What is the divine trying to give us if we could receive it and enjoy it and stay one with it? And to me, discipline, the only thing discipline is about is how to prolong satisfaction.
Yes.
Discipline means stick to what works, whatever that is. Quality. And instead of the art of motorcycle maintenance, quality. And so, to me, to publish the 22 Eases,
Yes.
to publish what is essentially 3 screenplays, I'm turning the Gospel According to St. Boogie into a combination of The Matrix and Oliver Stone. In other words, it's very politically astute, but it also has the magical realism thing, and the initiations like Morpheus or whatever, or Yoda. And so that's a reworking of St. Boogie into a screenplay.
Another show where we actually do some work, and I'd love to see what I could do to help you executive produce if that would help, and do the fundraiser so we actually see it manifest.
That'd be great. Yeah, I should work up a proposal. And I have the screenplay for the Eleanor story of, again, when the troubadours introduced the idea that it was good for a man's soul to be vulnerable to women, to respect the will of women, and all of that, that brought a secular idea of holiness, shall we say, and then that merged with the Arthur story of the North, of the Northern Europe. This is from the troubadours for Southern Europe, to create this idea that they're of individual romantic love, loving a person, not just impersonal Christian love or impersonal lust. But personal, devotional support.
Yes.
And that could be the center of a life, and that intimacy and loyalty and the relationship could be based on genuine personal love, not on territory or not on family obligations or whatever. They brought in the idea, of romantic love as a central thing. They brought in the idea of respect for women and transformed Western civilization. In many ways, they're the reason we're not the Taliban. Okay?
Yes.
And so that story needs to be told.
Yes.
And my autobiography,
Yes.
which is not really about me. It's kind of a cross between Castaneda and On the Road, you could say. Or the Acts of the Apostles, whatever, where you have the wild, creative, whatever thing, and you
Yes.
have the initiatory thing where you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this one alive?
The narrow path, yes.
and it's only because I played that edge so strong. Because if you're just going through your day-to-day, and you're satisfied with a certain thing and you're playing it safe, you don't get to experience these things. But when you're out there and you're like, oh, you got to pull a rabbit out of a hat this time, you get to. That's why I remember them so well. I don't remember what happened in day-to-day life very much, but I remember those things. Like people, like war veterans, they remember those moments. It's seared in their soul. And so we need for people to understand there's another science. There's a deeper science.
Yes.
And that is real. There's a cross between scientia, which is knowledge, which for science comes from, and gnosis, which is where, in many languages, 2 words for to know. To know a person, to know by experience and connection.
Yes.
It's connaître in French and connaître in Spanish. And that goes back to cognoscere, which goes back to gnosis, which ties in with Jnana Yoga in India. And so to know the direct experience of something, to know the innerness of the universe, combine that with science. With scientific rigor, and you have a complete knowledge. So we need the God thing and the science thing to merge. So we have a scientific understanding that the universe is conscious, that we have access to superpowers, And because we have access to that, the possibilities on this earth completely change. Our understanding of the identity of a human being completely changed. We go beyond, at some point we thought they had the idea of human rights. At some point we had the idea of science and rational conversation. So we've built up a lot of foundations. We need one more level. We need to understand and to embody what the prototype of the divine human being is in this perfect fusion of spirit and nature. It's like Jesus in hot pants, shall we say. Okay? And then we'll have the prototype, the dancing God. And we need that. And to understand, it's practical. Because romantics often play victim, right? Oh, I'm the noble artist, the starving artist. It's like, wait a minute, you're one with the creator who owns the universe? Why would you be starving?
Yes.
We need to understand spiritual power. Power, that's the third superpower, is Pluto. Power. This thing will give you your destiny. I do a little spell, I'm now giving everything I'm supposed to give to the world. Next thing you know, I'm standing in front of the co-founder of Alliance Atlantis and the CSI franchise at a 13 Emmy-nominated TV movie, pitching my script on Eleanor. I was like, how the hell did I get here? Being served the tea of the month by the maid. And I'm like, what? You did a spell. That's how you got here. Okay? Own it.
Yes.
Be it. Life is that magical.
So just open to and create the positive spells.
Yeah, as someone said to Werner Erhard, he said, stop being a little son of a bitch. Be willing to be big. But again, it's humble. Do you understand? It's humble because it's not you. It's humble because the instant you take the reins, you fall. You take the reins of your consciousness so you can give the reins. Okay? And then that Don Juan called it the Nahual and the Tonal. You have that connection to the source that will take care of you completely, and you have your down-to-earth practical person. And they need to work it out. The spiritual man and the natural man are not at war with each other. This natural man, human, surrenders to the spiritual person, and then you get it back. What's that E. Cummings line? For whatever we lose, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves that we find by the sea. Is that a good place to wrap?
It's a wonderful place to wrap. And Hugh, we've covered so much, and I wanted to just acknowledge you because I know that you've been giving it here in this community of that channel. For 14 years you were saying when I asked you. And so what's your divine vision? Just in three nutshells.
Well, I always tell people, why it's to change the world and have as much fun as possible, not necessarily in that order.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You are a divine dude, and so are you. And thank you so much for sharing some time with me, working as a Divine Dude host and on Divine Times and talking to all you Divine Games. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, let your divine shine. Blessings in the light.
Yowza. Oh, man.
Thank you.
Couldn't wish for anything better than that.
Namaste. That was just
Namaste.
almost too fun.